Hello, this is a review that you should be watching if you're wanting to retake the photosynthesis quiz. So we're just going to go through some of the key concepts that you should have learned in this past week about photosynthesis. So to start, we have the equation here on my screen. So we need for photosynthesis to happen in a plant carbon dioxide, water, solar energy or energy from light, specifically the sun usually, and we're going to get out glucose and oxygen. So I'm just going to rewrite it down here. So we need water and we need carbon dioxide. Whoops. And we need sunlight. And when we have those things, we can then get out on the other side glucose and oxygen. So this is an important process because this is how a plant grows. This is how a plant gets energy. So the plant is able to take sunlight, and sunlight is a type of solar energy, right? So sunlight equals solar or light energy. And it's able to take that energy and convert it into chemical energy, which the plant can then use to grow and to get energy, and then it's able to use that energy to do things such as make new cells and grow taller. So we are taking sunlight or solar energy and the plants convert it to chemical energy found in the glucose. Okay, so glucose. The plants then go through what we call cellular respiration, and they're able to take that glucose and oxygen and make what's called ATP and use the ATP. So really the whole point of photosynthesis is to create this glucose and oxygen. So that means really the point is to make glucose, to make this chemical energy. So that means that oxygen is produced and it's kind of just given off, right? So we talk about how we take in oxygen and we release carbon dioxide. Plants are the opposite. They take in carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. Oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis that the plant doesn't actually need, and so it's just released back into the air. So oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis that the plant doesn't need, so it is released back into the air. Whereas glucose is then used by the cells for its chemical energy, so the plant can create ATP or a different kind of energy that it can use in all of its cells. So really, the point of this is energy. We are starting with solar energy, we are converting it to chemical energy, and we have a byproduct of oxygen in the end. We did 2 labs for this unit, because part of this is that you should be able to do some labs to prove that photosynthesis is really happening. So the first lab that we did was this was called the leaf disc lab, and if you were here or if you were not, there was a video you watched if you were not. And what we did first is we punched holes out of leaves. We put those leaves inside a syringe, and then we filled the syringe with a baking soda and water solution, and then we drowned those leaves. So basically we forced the baking soda and water solution into the leaves so that they would drown. And the stomatas, or basically inside the cells of the leaf, there's usually air, and we forced it to be filled with instead a liquid of baking soda water. Then we dumped all those into the bottom of a beaker and we put it over a bright light over it, and we slowly saw that these leaves discs started to form some bubbles on top, and then as they got enough bubbles they would rise to the top of the water. So what was really going on? Well, we took these leaves, and these leaves can still photosynthesize. They still have all of the manufacturing parts they need inside the cell to do photosynthesis. So when you drown the leaves, you're filling the whole leaf with liquid, And then you're putting it in this liquid so they sink to the bottom. And refresher, we need for photosynthesis water, carbon dioxide, and light in order for photosynthesis to happen. And then we will produce glucose and oxygen. So where did we get photosynthesis? How did we see photosynthesis in this lab? Well, we needed water, and we got water in the liquid, right? And the water came from the liquid that was in the beaker. Then we needed, we needed carbon dioxide. Well, the carbon dioxide is going to come from the baking soda that we put in the water. That's why we had to add baking soda, because then it adds enough carbon dioxide to the water for the plant to be able to go through photosynthesis. So water came from the liquid in the beaker, carbon dioxide comes from the baking soda, and then the sunlight is going to come from the bright light. So we have all the three things that we need for photosynthesis: water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. So then the plant, given time, will start to photosynthesize. And what will happen is we will produce whoops, sorry, wrong one. We will produce glucose and oxygen. Okay, and we're going to be able, the plant is going to keep the glucose because that's the chemical energy that it needs, but it's going to give off the oxygen because it doesn't need it. And so that's when we start seeing the little bubbles start to form on the tops of these leaves. That is the oxygen being released from the leaves because photosynthesis is happening. So oxygen is released from the leaves. We see it as bubbles on top of the leaves, which then causes the leaf disc to float to the top of the water. So you are literally seeing photosynthesis happen in front of your eyes with this lab, and you're seeing evidence of it from the bubbles. So that is how we saw photosynthesis happen in the leaf disc lab. The other lab that we did was the garden crest lab, where we took we had 2 cups. You got 2 cups as a partnership. One, you gave all the 3 things that we need for plants to photosynthesize. So you gave it water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. All 3 of those things you gave it so it could photosynthesize. Then the other cup, you decided to take one away. Either you took away water, carbon dioxide, or sunlight. And in the end, after 5 days of observing these, we got some varied results, but the ones that worked, we had, for example, this first one. This is kind of what our no light looked like. Our no light one grew really fast because there was humidity and there was enough water and stuff from the seeds that it could still sprout and grow. But then it turned yellow because there was not sunlight for photosynthesis to happen. So sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. It's the energy source. So once these leaves start popping up, that's where the photosynthesis is going to happen in the green part of the plant. And it's going to happen with the chlorophyll. That's a chemical inside the plant that makes it green. So once you don't have photosynthesis happening, there's not going to be chlorophyll, which is the green part. So there's no chlorophyll, meaning no photosynthesis happening in this yellow one. Whereas over here we have little ones, but they are green and photosynthesis is happening. We also tried water and no water. And if you did that one, you saw no water, we had no sprouts at all. It was just seeds. Water, we had these little sprouts that came up and they were nice and green. So that was really clear that we need water in order for a plant to photosynthesize. It can't even sprout without water. The last one we could test was carbon dioxide. And we didn't really have a good way to test this because we didn't have a vacuum. Meaning we needed a way to suck out all of the air from the plant in order to test it, to see if the plant could grow without carbon dioxide, and we didn't have a good way to do this. So carbon dioxide was not really tested. We tried a couple ways, but they did not work in class. So really we just saw how light and water were necessary for a plant to grow. So those are the 2 labs we did and how they connect back to our equation. So this is the main things you need to know, that water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight are needed for photosynthesis, and glucose and oxygen are what are produced. Glucose is going to be our chemical energy. Sunlight is going to be your solar energy. And we're really just converting from solar energy to chemical energy so the plant can use it. Oxygen is just a byproduct. It's going to be released and it's not necessary for the plant. And we were able to do these labs to kind of prove that photosynthesis was happening. I hope this helped you, and that's all.